Welcome back to the Kandis Show. I'm Kandis Palmer, and today I sat down with a great friend of mine, Doug Jackson. He's CEO and president of an amazing organization here, Project C.U.R.E. They send medical supplies to countries in need, and I wanted to share his story because it's so parallel to my big why in life. So I hope you enjoyed. Doug, welcome to the Kandis Show.
Thank you. This is fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, you came all the way from Colorado.
It snowed last night in Denver, so it's 83 degrees here, and this is a really nice treat.
Well, good. I'm glad you think it is. It's hot. I wanted to ask you, have you ever had that moment where you just said yes to life, and then you show up, and then life just says yes right back to you?
No, never happened.
Stop.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what makes life fun.
I know, right? I kind of feel that way about our friendship.
Yeah.
And how we met. I just showed up to the charity event.
Right.
To support my friend Magley.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I meet the CEO and president of this amazing charity organization.
Was he there that night?
He was.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. I have to look him up next time.
No, it's you.
You're kind.
So I just felt so compelled and to share your story. So again, thanks for coming on.
No, thank you.
And I think the reason is because when I learned about the charity, I had to get kind of emotional. It was so parallel to what I wanted to do in my big why in life.
Yeah, right.
So, and it was just, something I'm like, oh, this guy, I've got to know him. I've got to hear his story. I've got to find out how he got there. So would you mind just kind of sharing a little bit about what you're involved with?
Sure.
And how you got involved and the impact it's making.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun. The organization I work for is called Project C.U.R.E, and it was an organization that my mom and dad started when I was a younger kid. My dad moved to Denver, and his whole reason to move to Denver was to get rich. He wanted to be a millionaire by the time he was 30, and grew up in Idaho. The problem is you can't be rich in Idaho because there's just not enough money in the whole state. And so he moved to Denver and got involved selling cars first, and then got involved in developing real estate after that. And developed a couple little places up west of Denver. One's called Winter Park and one's called Vail.
Oh. And
made a bucket load of money. He missed his goal by a year. He became a millionaire when he was 31. And then did it again and again and again and again and again. And after a while, he and my mom, they had enjoyed everything that they wanted. They had the Mercedes, they had the big house, they had all of the things. And my dad looked at my mom one day and said, "Are you really happy?" And she said, "Not so much." And he said, "Well, when were you most happy?" She said, "When we were kids living on the farm." And so they started a foundation and they gave their money away. And then my dad was left with time on his hands. And so what do you do with the time once the stuff is gone? And he started doing economic consulting as a way to give back the things that he knew about making money. So that led him initially to Zimbabwe, and then he ended up in Ecuador and finally in Brazil. And he was working with the president down there because they had such a bad economic situation. Well, he had a little interpreter named Lorena, and Lorena was a medical student. Lorena's mom was a doctor. And on the weekends, they would go down to these little favelas, and they would do healthcare for 300,000 people who didn't have a doctor. The favelas are these neighborhoods that are sort of built out of cardboard boxes up the side of these hills in Brazil. Well, anyway, he went to this clinic where this doctor was trying to treat these people, and it was just a house. I mean, no bigger than this studio. And in the front room of the house, they had an old exam table and a box of re-rolled bandages. In the bedroom was the pediatrics ward, and they had baby scales, and it was painted pink, and it had some Walt Disney posters on the wall, and that was it. Wow. And my dad looked at this guy, and he's like, "You can't do medicine like this." And the guy said, "Well, I'm poor. What am I supposed to do?" So my dad went back to Denver and had a conversation with a buddy of his, a guy named Greg, and Greg said, "Well, that's easy, Jim." He said, "Pete and I, we own a medical wholesale company. We'll give you stuff."
Oh, wow.
And they gave my dad $50,000 worth of medical supplies. And then they called all their friends in the business, and they filled my mom and dad's garage up, both sides of the garage, in about 30 days.
Wow.
And my parents paid to ship that down to Brazil, and that's how this whole crazy thing got started. So fast forward now, we have worked in 138 countries.
Wow.
We run warehouses here in Phoenix and in Denver and Nashville and Houston and Chicago and Philly. When my team is really on their game, they will ship 5 semi-truck trailers a week.
That's a lot of medical supplies.
That's a lot of medical supplies. Our average client will go to work for 12 hours, and they make $1.
In 12 hours?
In 12 hours. There are 6 billion people, plus or minus, that live on the face of the earth now.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom third of those people, 2 billion people, live on less than $2 a day. And when you're that poor, you get sick and you die. You just can't afford health care.
Yeah.
So all we're doing at Project C.U.R.E. is we just go to hospitals and manufacturers and wholesalers, and we collect everything from catheters to CAT scans, Band-Aids, whatever, needle, syringe, gauze, suture, ventilators, all of it. And we pack it in these big, it's a semi-truck trailer, a 40-foot container.
Yeah. And
we put that on a boat. We ship that over to these different communities, and we just give it away.
That's amazing. Well, when I learned about it, I was blown away because I had always had the vision about, lack of food and, implementing systems and water. And the medical piece it didn't connect till that night. And I was like, oh, like a suture's $4 for us, or it can literally change a life.
Right. Yeah, these mommies are not making it after having babies because they don't have a $4 piece of suture. And it doesn't make any sense until you figure out that that's a week's wages, and she's got 3 little kids at home. And so nobody eats for a week because she's got suture. I mean, who makes that decision?
Yeah.
So that's the tough part about where most of the world is in healthcare.
Yeah.
And, when you get sick. And the thing is that, there was that book about, they call it Stones into Schools, and how they had taken, rocks and built schools in Afghanistan, it's a very cool story. The problem is that if those little girls are sick, they don't go to school. I've got a friend of mine on another board that runs the Heifer Project. Fantastic project. Provides cows so that moms can milk the cows and sell the milk, and she's got a business now, right? The right idea. If mommy's sick, though, that cow doesn't give milk. So everything has to start with whether or not you're healthy.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly it.
Right.
Yeah, our health, I think we take it for granted.
Well, we do here, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure.
We just always think we're going to be healthy, and then the minute something happens, you realize,
Right.
Right. So that's really amazing. I think you're so inspiring.
You're kind. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So your parents started Project C.U.R.E.
Right.
But I think it's interesting because, I shared with you earlier, your bio is super impressive.
Thank you.
And when I read it, I'm like, oh my God, this guy's my friend. This guy's my friend. Now I'm nervous to be your friend. So you literally could do anything. I mean, you're an attorney. The list could go on. So share with me, why you decided to carry on your dad's vision and things like that.
It's interesting because there was no big moment of, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. I actually told my dad I would help him for 6 months, and I've been doing this for 22 years. And so, that really was, and just one day leads to the next, and it leads to the next, and it's like, well, we got to fix that problem.
Yeah.
Well, we got to fix that problem.
You can't
now we
get
got
out.
to buy a warehouse. Exactly. And pretty soon, I do a lot of talking about this whole notion of passion, purpose, and people.
Yeah.
And that became the purpose. A lot of times people will say, well, go follow your passion. All right, well, I'm going to sell my business. I'm going to go start a yoga studio, and because I'm passionate about that. And 6 months from now, you're out of business, right? Because you didn't really think about, why am I doing what I'm doing? Is it sustainable? Right?
Yeah, you have to have a why behind.
Right, exactly.
To keep going in the darkest of days when you're feeling, beat down or.
Right, because passion will ebb and flow.
Yeah.
But the purpose stays, right?
Yeah.
So if your purpose is focused, it was Mark Twain, I think, that said the 2 most important days of your life, the day you were born and the day you found out why. So when you really focus on that purpose, then you can actually build the passion on the back end of the purpose. And I think that's kind of what happened to me was I decided that I was going to help my dad first. That was the purpose. And then I met some of these people, and I went to these places, and I saw this stuff, and it's like, well, we have to fix that. And that became the purpose. And then you go over there, and you realize what you did was you changed the course of history for a whole community of people, right? Because now mommy's not going to die. Baby's not going to die. After 3 kids, and she realizes all 3 of her kids are going to stay healthy and alive, she can get a tubal occlusion, right?
Yeah.
She didn't have to be pregnant her entire life. You talk to some of these moms, and you say, well, why'd you have 9 babies? She said, well, because 6 of them are going to die. So if I want 3, I got to have 9 to keep 3.
Oh.
Well, if you can get those kids healthy, then it's like, okay, I got the rest of my life. Well, what do you want to do? I want to start a business. I want to go to work. And any dad who's halfway smart is like, yeah, that's a really good idea. You should do that, you know? And so this investment, starts to take shape, and you just see things start to change. That's when the passion starts to build, is because you start to realize your purpose. And the purpose is only good as long as it's focused on people.
I like that. I mean, I have this whole concept about bigger why, which I shared with you that night I met you. But I never related all 3 together. So I think that's going to be important for me to develop that more so that I can really get on purpose.
Well, right. I mean, there are people that you and I know, we meet them all the time, whose purpose is, well, I want to get as much stuff as I can. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the human condition, right?
Well, we all like stuff.
Sure. Right. But if that is the ultimate purpose of your being here, it's not related to other people, then the passion starts to die, right? I call it the new normal. When you buy your brand new shoes, they feel great. After a couple of weeks, they're your new shoes. After a month, they're your shoes. After 6 months, it's like,
old
get rid
shoes.
of these, right? It's still the same pair of shoes. Same thing with the car. Same thing with the house. Somebody's going to buy your used car, and it's going to be the coolest new car they've ever had, except that it was your old car and it wasn't cool, right? Because it becomes the new normal. And that's what happens when you focus your purpose on things that aren't people related. And then we wonder why the passion starts to die, right? You see this happen in businesses, where a business focuses on a customer, and they're like, okay, our goal is to, provide healthcare in my industry, or we were talking about selling real estate. My goal is to help people find the place where they're going to live their life, right?
Yeah.
Why do you want a house? Well, you can
Got to have a roof over my head.
Exactly, but you could do that at a hotel. You could do that in a car. There's a lot of ways that you can do that.
Tent.
I want to find the environment where the best moments of my life happen, okay? Because that's the purpose of people. Once you disengage that purpose thing, then we get what we call burnout, and that's when the passion starts to die. I've watched CEOs do it to companies. I've watched people lose their passion. I'm tired of selling copy machines. Okay.
What's the disconnect? Where is it?
Because it's not focused. Think about the airline industry, right? Everybody talks about Southwest Airlines.
Oh, yeah. It's the greatest airline, right?
Right. And you ask somebody, why do you exist as Southwest Airlines? They're not going to say, because we're going to make money for the shareholders. They do. That's not the purpose. That was never Herb Keller's purpose to start with. His purpose was, we're going to get people to the most important thing that they're doing in their life. Vacations, job interviews, funerals, weddings, whatever. Why do you get on an airplane?
Yeah. Important
Because
stuff.
there's something on the other end of that. So my job is to help you get to that place. But when you focus on the people, the rest of this is fun. And then you get the crazy flight attendants and all of the fun passion pieces, right? Because they build that purpose is focused on people. When you take it away, Frontier Airlines, they suck. And everybody
okay,
is
on the
miserable. Yeah, I used to fly them. I don't want to get 10 feet from the airplane now. They're gross, right? But everybody that used to have that in mind, they lost the whole purpose thing. And now it's just a job. Now I'm just here to collect a paycheck.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not fun.
Yeah.
And you can tell in their attitude. They treat you bad. They don't want to be there. They have no
Miserable.
passion. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, when I said the disconnect, I'm like, how can we get people to think in terms like that better,
Right.
like in the masses, right? Because it's a problem.
Right.
That's where my mind goes past,
Sure.
Saving kids in Africa.
Right.
But goodness, I mean, that's
Right.
a problem.
Well, it is. And some people, and this is going to be bold, but I don't know that they are equipped to think that way.
Oh.
And I'm not sure if that's innate or if that's learned behavior or what. But, you think about all the motivational people that are out there, right?
Yeah. Tony Robbins,
all of those
all
guys,
of them.
Brandon Burchard, all those guys,
Yeah.
right? That material is free. It's on the YouTube.
Yeah.
You can download it, watch it, work out to it, whatever.
Right.
Why don't more people do that?
Well, because working on yourself is not easy.
Well, right.
It's hard work to look
Right.
at yourself.
Right.
People choose to not look at themselves and just go through life.
Right. So why don't more people figure out what their purpose is?
Well, this is awkward silence because I don't know the answer
Well,
to
you just
this.
gave me the answer. I mean, you just said because it's really hard to
It is
work
hard.
on yourself. Yeah. Right.
It's hard to look in.
Right.
It's easier to distract.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
easier to do all the things that people do to move away from
Television,
taking responsibility for themselves.
gaming,
Yes.
there's
Alcohol.
Facebook, all of it.
All
right.
of it. Yes.
Yep.
Social media.
Yep.
Whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, this is heavy. It turned into a heavy conversation.
How about that scotch, right?
Right? Oh, by the way, just so you guys know, he gave me a total lesson in whiskey, scotch, tequila, rum.
Well, she said next time come back, there's gonna be a whole bunch of whiskey out here for a whiskey tasting or something.
I really am going to start the whiskey club. I'm working on it.
Right.
So yeah, I said, how did you know all this about all this? But you shared with me that you read a ton of books. How many books do you read?
I mean, it kind of depends on how much I'm traveling, but if I'm traveling a lot, I'll probably read a couple a week.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
And then I said to you, my mentor once told me
Right.
the amount of books that you read are directly related to, your income.
Right.
So we'll change that to success.
To success, yeah.
How
there
about
we
that?
go. Yeah, that works better.
Yeah.
Right. That's fun.
So who would you say has been the most influential person in your life?
There's been a lot. Of course, my dad and mom are great. My folks are still alive. They're healthy.
Aw.
My dad wrote a book called The Happiest Man in the World. And I tell people, if you want to know why he's happy, meet my mom, right?
Aw, that's cute.
She's been with him the whole time. I've got an executive coach that I think is amazing. I've met people all over the world that have been, at those moments where it's like, that moves me to do something great. So, I don't know. How about you?
I think, just all the coaching, I think, in my life, really.
Yeah.
I have people that are inspirations and reasons that I do what I do, but I think that the coaching has just been like a really fundamental piece in moving me forward. And I know we've shared about, coaching calls and things like that, but it's like when you get that person that can see you for you and really just, move that needle forward every week and you change and grow and develop, and there's just power in that because you just start, going in, how we shared about being able to look at yourself and go, how am I missing the mark? And what do I need to do to move myself forward? It's really powerful.
Right.
Because I have big things to accomplish on this earth.
Right.
It's kind of still, I don't know, I don't have exact clarity.
Right.
So I'm excited to maybe, chat with you further about that whole passion, people, and purpose and work a little deeper on that. I think mindset really is really everything. And
Right.
it all comes back to it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's an author I love to read, Byron Katie, who wrote a book called, hang on a second. Isn't that funny? I'll think of it in just a second here.
Yeah, it'll come to you.
It will come to me. But anyway, she talks about the thoughts that we choose to embrace.
Mm.
And she calls it the work. And she says that thoughts are like wind. You get every thought through your head, here to there, right?
Yeah.
We get to choose which ones we want to keep.
That's right.
And so it's that choice of mindset that really determines where we go in our life. And so if you are embracing a thought that's not helpful to you, stop thinking it.
Yeah,
It's just that easy.
replace it.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
You got to recognize it. And I love that that saying. I always kind of live my life by it. But what you focus on expands.
Right.
So do you want to focus on negative things?
Right.
And negative things are just going to keep continually showing up in your world.
Right.
Or do you want to change the story?
Yep.
And focus on something that is
Right.
positive or positively impacts you.
Right.
On some level.
Well, and I think the same thing is true with money. I think money is the great magnifier, right? If you take money and you put it on some poor girl from Macedonia, you get Mother Teresa, and she changes Calcutta. If you get some kid that doesn't have a very good heart and throw a bunch of money at him, you get, Dennis Rodman. But, it's just, you think about that magnification factor of taking a little bit and you put resources behind it, whether it's your energy, your money, or whatever, right? And then watch what happens. And whatever it is that you focused on grows.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Look at all you've been able to do. Like, I can't wait. I'm kind of very excited about in this next year. I'm kind of focused on putting together an event and raising money to fill one of those containers and shipping it over.
Off. Yeah.
And I want to go travel to wherever I send the container to and and show up. What does that look like? Like because I know you're like boots on the ground, if you will, right? Yeah,
I've got a gal, Carla, that runs what we call our C.U.R.E. clinics. So we never really set out to be competitors to Doctors Without Borders or whatever. Yeah. But we would come back and people would say, hey, I love the idea of what you're doing. Could I ever go with you? You know? And then we get over there on the other side and people would say, hey, thanks for all the stuff, but do you ever have anybody who could come help me? And I'm not a real smart guy, but if they want to go and these people need the help, I'll bet we can figure out how to put these things together. So we started a program called C.U.R.E. Clinics, and it's where we take doctors and nurses overseas, and you go into these little villages. We have a group right now in Paraguay. And yesterday I just saw this little Facebook post. They treated 245 people in one day who had never seen a doctor.
Never.
Right? And, we'll go into places in Ghana and we might see 4,000 or 5,000 people in a week. And then what we do is we do this right next to the partners that we have that are in the hospitals, right? And so rather than competing with the doctor from Africa that's running that hospital or the doctor from South America, whatever, we come alongside and we have delivered a container there already, and we're able to tell the people, hey, you're sick. We're going to treat you together with my African doctor partner, and the next week when we're gone, you need to come back and see this doctor because this doctor will help you. No. Right? And what you just did was you strengthened the whole healthcare system by virtue of making that doctor a hero, giving that doctor the tools that they need to treat these patients. They'll come see doctors from the United States, nurses from the United States all day long, right? Because we're kind of a little celebrity thing. Show up and everybody's like, oh, the doctors from America are here.
They don't trust their own people.
Well, I mean, it's just one of those funny things. I was in a market in Asia and in China, and we were walking through, and my interpreter took me over there. He said, I want to buy something, cool, not from the store where all the tourists go. I want to buy something from your market. So I bought this cool little tea thing. Anyway, we're walking along, and all of a sudden I noticed that the entire market is really quiet. And I turn around, and here's all this little line of kids, following me down the aisle thing. And there's, ducks and everything. I mean, it was just crazy, this really great, but now it's quiet. And I looked at him, and the woman from that village that was with him said, well, he's the first Anglo who's ever been in this market. And so you're just kind of an oddity. It's like, hey, look at these people, right? It's just kind of crazy. So sometimes that's why, we show up with a team of doctors and nurses and everybody wants to go because you're just unique. But if you go over there and you do that and you say, well, this is our clinic, then the message you just gave to the community is don't trust your doctor. Yeah. So we have to go in and come alongside of those people and say, we're doing this together as a team. You teach us some things. How do you diagnose that when you don't have electronic equipment? Right? Yeah. That's something we don't teach in the United States anymore. So it ends up being this really fun back and forth. And in the meantime, then you've treated a whole bunch of people that were going to be sick, and now they're well.
Such a cool impact.
Yes, it's really fun.
That's
So,
awesome.
but yeah, so Carla will do, I don't know, 25, 30 of these trips this year, and you should scrub in and go. That would be fun.
I'm going to. Yeah,
That would be really fun.
I plan on it. I've already added it to my vision board. And in fact, that night at the charity event,
Right.
they were selling pictures of the
Right.
children.
Yeah.
Right. So I bought that, and it's
that's fun.
Yeah, it's set and I hung it above my dining table. So
cool.
I'd see it
Very
every day.
cool.
It's a very big reminder of my purpose.
Yep.
So I'm kind of curious, okay, now that you're, where you're at in life, if you had to look back and get to your younger self and give a piece of advice, what would you tell your younger self?
That's a really good question.
It's kind of on the spot, sorry.
Eat more vegetables?
Are you serious?
No, I don't know.
I'm like, wait, is this...
No, I don't know. It's an interesting thing, because what made you what you are today is the amalgamation of all the great decisions you made and all the mistakes that you made, and right. I think I would try to figure out a mistake or two that I made and say, when you get to that fork in the road, don't go that way. That was a big mistake. Do something different, right? But yeah, so I don't know. Yeah,
that's interesting about mistakes and failures. I always say, I've said it on my previous podcast, the failures, they're hard.
Right.
It's just hard.
Right.
And it's also how you react to them, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because we have a choice, once again.
Right.
To take what's there.
Right.
In the failure, and because that's what really makes us better.
Right.
If we never fail, then we don't really know.
Yep. By the way, Byron Katie's book is called Loving What Is.
You remembered?
I remembered.
Loving What Is.
Loving What Is, yeah.
I should add it to my Audible.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really interesting, because you can change how you look at all of that, including the failures and the mistakes, and say, I choose to embrace it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes back to mindset.
Right.
Everything's mindset.
Thanks, Tony Robbins.
No, you're supposed to say thanks, Kandis.
Thanks, Kandis.
Gosh, anything else you want to kind of share with the world? Do you have any thoughts that have been swirling around while we've been here or today that you...
Well, for your Phoenix world, I would say I would love to have the people that that are watching this come down and get involved with what we're doing. We have a big warehouse, and it's down in Tempe, off Broadway in the 10.
All right.
And we are open about 6.5 days a week for people to come down. Sometimes we have a hard time getting people to come in on Sunday. But all of these people, we'll have 35,000 volunteers this year at Project C.U.R.E, and I have 32 paid staff.
Wow.
And so...
So there's tons of opportunity to volunteer.
Absolutely.
What's that look
Come
like?
Down and
what are people going to do when they show up?
So we get all of this stuff from local hospitals, doctors' offices, all of this, and it all has to be sorted. The equipment has to be checked and make sure it works. If it doesn't work, we got to fix it. Got to put all the cords and cables together. All of those needles and syringes and gloves and gauze and all that stuff has to be sorted out and put into boxes, and then the boxes get repacked and labeled and all of that, and then it gets loaded onto these containers.
Because you make these kits, correct?
We have kits too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we got C.U.R.E kits, which is 50 pounds of stuff for you to take on an airplane with you. So if somebody was a doctor or nurse and they were going overseas to do one of these trips, or let's say it's a Rotary Club and you're going to go over visit and say, well, what would be the perfect gift? Well, why don't you take $2,000 of the medical supplies and just give it to the local clinic?
Yeah.
That's a pretty nice thing to do. Oh. So we've got those, and then we have another little program we call Kits for Kids, and it's a little backpack. And inside the backpack is everything that mommy should have under her sink or in her medicine cabinet to take care of her kiddo. So in a lot of places, and I've seen this happen actually, where a little kid will be running down the street, or they get, trip and fall, or they get caught on a little piece of wire or something, and that gets infected. Well, they don't have antibiotics, they don't have a Band-Aid, and so that could actually cause them to lose their leg. I was in Oaxaca, Mexico not too long ago, and ran into a guy that's what happened, and he got in a motorcycle wreck and cut his foot, and he ended up getting staph, and they had to amputate at the hip.
Well, in staph, you can go...
You could die, right?
Yeah.
And so, so they were just trying to stay ahead of the infection. Anyway, the point is that for a little bit of Neosporin and a Band-Aid, you can take care of some problems that, for here, it's just simple, right?
Yeah, we just forget.
Right.
we just don't know.
We do this fun little party that we do with the Girl Scouts around Christmas time. And we go to like Children's Hospital and bring in these big wooden bins full of all of the stuff that goes in those kits, about 15 different items, right? The Band-Aids, Neosporin, toothpaste, toothbrush, all this stuff. And these little Girl Scouts, they pack all these kits.
Aww.
And there's a little space on the front of it where they can write notes, get well and all this kind of fun stuff. And the most fun thing is you get all these little kids and you say, hey, so what happens if you fall down and skin your knee, And they raise their hand. And they say, well, you put the Bernie fizzy stuff. Okay, peroxide, that's good. Okay. And then what happens? Well, then you put a Band-Aid on it. Great. You want to do anything else? Well, you put the goop on there. Okay, good. Neosporin. What if you don't have a Band-Aid? Well, we go down to Target, buy one. Say, okay, so there's no Target. We go to CVS.
No CVS.
There's no CVS. There's no Walgreens. There's no store. And the kids are like, whoa,
what?
Wait, where is there no store? You say, well, there's a lot of little kids in the world that don't have a store. Now let's go pack these bags. Right?
They get excited.
And it's really fun.
Oh.
So, yeah, we've done that and, and then go hand them out. And it's really fun.
So there's so much opportunity for
Right.
people to volunteer here.
Right.
You don't have to raise money and do a whole container.
Only if you're Kandis.
Well, I have a lot of ambition and
Right.
aspiration in life. So I think that's great that you shared that with people, and I would love to get a group of people together and go, locally volunteer here at the warehouse.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So cool. We'll add that to the schedule as well.
To the to-do list.
Yeah, to the to-do list. Yes.
Cool.
Well, gosh, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This is really fun.
I'm so excited for people to, watch this and feel inspired and, and to learn about other opportunities that they can give back. I think people get so busy in their world and they just forget that there's opportunity to really lend a hand and give back. And
they do it because they're called. So thanks for doing the show. Thanks for calling other people to do it, right?
Yeah.
The governor is not going to send you an invitation to change the world.
Oh, so disappointing.
You don't get a written notification from somebody that says, congratulations, you're invited. It just doesn't happen. So if it's going to happen, it's because somebody like you is going to stand up and say, I've decided in the middle of my busy career to do this thing. That's what Magali did that night at her house. Was in the middle of all the stuff she's got going on. She says, I'm going to invite a bunch of my friends over, and we're going to ship a container of...
And we did it.
We did.
And there wasn't, I think there was probably, how many people were there?
I think 40 maybe. Yeah.
And we raised, $20,000 for a container?
Right.
So that's what, it was inspiring. I'm like, I can do this.
Right.
I could just get 5 containers. So I can get all, big vision.
Well, and what's inside that container is about $50,000. I'm sorry, is about $400,000 for the stuff inside that container.
That was donated.
We
just got to get it there.
Right. So 20 gets you 400. And that's what we shipped that night from Magali's is almost $500,000 worth of stuff.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
Fun.
Yes. Well, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. This has been fun.